This is one of our first town talks of the year, and we are excited about this. As you know, we had a terrible storm on New Year's Eve that created a little bit of havoc in town. So we thought the best thing to do would be to actually help our citizens and our residents get situated, help with the flooding. So this is our actually first town talk for 2023, and I'm excited to do this today. The message initially here is we'd like to communicate with our downtown folks. We'd like to communicate with our residents. And we have three speakers today on this program. And we have Chief Alan Shields, and he's going to talk about our Danville annual police report. And this is a report that he just presented to our Danville Town Council, and we were pretty excited about it. We have Assistant Town Manager Ty Williams and City Engineer Stephen Jones to update us on the Diablo Culvert project on Diablo Road. And this is a fairly significant storm drain project. And then finally, we'll have Judy Lloyd, President and CEO of our Danville Area Chamber of Commerce. And she is one of our very important partners in communicating with our downtown businesses and our residents. If you have any questions, you can certainly email the questions. All the links that we're talking about today will certainly be on our danvilletowntalks.org/mayor, and we'll put that up on the screen a little bit later. Naturally, we welcome questions, but keep in mind that the council will always be available to answer questions. We answer our phone. You can email us. We respond back. You may not always love the answer we have, but we will certainly communicate with you. And when we are on Town Talks, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to be here today. You know, we would encourage you to subscribe to the series and updates at danvilletowntalks.org/mayor. We will post monthly updates about topics you hear about today, and then naturally the recordings will be available on our social media. We are trying to figure out how to communicate with our downtown, our businesses, and our citizens. So if you have an idea, if you have a suggestion, please call me, Jen Starnes, who is our public information officer. She will also put her email address and phone number. So we are looking for input from each of you. We just did the State of the Town. Very excited about that. We had, I believe, about 175 people that took their time to come to a luncheon. And I was really pleased with the outcome and was happy to do the State of the Town. If you have an organization that you'd like me to present a mini State of the Town, I'd be happy to do that. And I'll put my information up at the end of the email or end of this program as well. And Jen, if we could play the Danville Lifestyle video that we did at the State of the Town, that'd be great. This just shows us a little bit about where we live in the town of Danville. I want you to know that from my perspective, I've lived in Danville since 1988, and I honestly couldn't be more excited about living in the town of Danville. I actually pinch myself every day when I wake up thinking I could be a small part of this, the forward vision of this town. So we want to communicate with our public and we want to communicate with all of our residents and naturally our downtown. So, I'm going to encourage people to look at our quarterly newsletters, Live Local quarterly newsletter. Great representation of all the aspects of Danville. And as you saw in the video, Danville is a pretty special place to live and raise your family. And this is an incredible environment. We're surrounded by Mount Diablo and Los Trompas and all the wonderful amenities the town offers. The Live Local newsletter comes out quarterly, and last year I picked up a copy of this, and it actually had our town finances on it that we had a big part in creating. But the way the finances were set up on this Live Local newsletter, it was so easy to get through. And I thought to myself, wow, we should really encourage these newsletters because there's so much information that we can actually give you, and you'll actually enjoy the information. We post monthly about topics. We introduce you to some of our employees, some of our police department. Since this newsletter went out, we try to capture all the information about the town of Danville so that we can bring you up to speed up to that moment in real time on what's going on. Our capital improvement project, we're spending about $8 million a year on creating projects. Our pavement management projects. The reason our streets look so nice is we spend $3 million a year, resealing and asphalting our streets. We have an exciting downtown master plan, and I believe the next segment of Town Talks, we're going to spend a great deal of time explaining to you what we're doing downtown. But just as a quick highlight, we are spending almost $5 million. We're going to light up the downtown. We're going to do traffic calming intersection. We're going to raise the intersections and create some incredible landscaping. We're going to create areas where people can gather and where we can actually bring people downtown to hang out. And that's what we want here. We want a synergy downtown and an excitement downtown that you want to come downtown, you want to eat, you want to hang out, and you want to bring your family. Our maintenance. I can't give enough kudos to our maintenance department, especially Dave Castile, who on New Year's Eve, probably one of the most horrible days to find people to do work, when our town was flooding and we have a tremendous amount of issues, Dave was able to find people, resources, equipment to help with the cleanup. And as you recall, we had, 3 to 5 days of just a complete mess. And Dave and his maintenance crew did an amazing job. Just to put some numbers in perspective, we usually do about 105 or so potholes a year in Danville. Just in the month of January and February, I think we're at 406 at this point and still counting. So we are doing our best to bring this town back into shape. The events and activities, it has a calendar of events. People say, hey, what's going on in town? This newsletter will give you all that information. And we just had a remarkable cover band for Paul McCartney at the Village Theater this last weekend, and it was jam-packed. The people ate downtown, they socialized downtown, then they went to this wonderful Paul McCartney venue. And I got so many compliments on, wow, what a great little theater. We should, I had one of my friends said, first time I've ever been there. And I said, would you go back? He said, oh my God, the place is amazing. Of course I will. So again, the newsletter is available now, and the link is danvilletowntalks.org/mayor. So then we're going to move on to what I consider, and this council considers, a very exciting topic. And we have our police chief, and Alan Shields has been with the town of Danville, seems like it's most of his career. He's a 23-year veteran of the sheriff's office. And as you know, we contract our police services with the sheriff's office. He started off as a deputy, worked his way up to sergeant, investigator, detective, lieutenant, administrative lieutenant, working under our chief, Steve Simpkins. And now he's the police chief, and he has been here as police chief for 7 years. And I never want to lose sight of this. Can we bring Alan on? Alan's married to his wife, Christine. He has 3 kids, and they all live in Danville. So he's a Danville guy. He's our Danville police chief. So, nobody understands the issues in Danville better than our police chief. And we're going to have the chief give us a little bit of an insight into what we're doing right in the police department, what crimes or burglaries are going up, You know, and this is going to be a format where we give you good news and we give you bad news. We just want to be transparent here, and we're just going to lay it all out on the table. And Alan Shields has been a big part of the reason that, and I never want to lose sight of this. Sometimes you get numb to hearing this over and over again, but under 50,000 population, we are the #1 safest city in California. And there's 483 cities. And to have that designation, you know, you get tired of hearing it sometimes. And I know I have friends that say, "God, stop saying that." I can't. It is so exciting that we are the safest city in California. And this is our 7th year. And by coincidence, Alan Shields has been here 7 years. And I will also add that when you know, because naturally the police department is our largest budget, you know, there's a $10-11 million a year expense, but it's worth it because you have a guy like Alan in a leadership position, and we give him money, he puts it to good use, and he protects our residents and our citizens. You'll feel better at night. I sleep a hell of a lot better knowing that we are the safest city in California. Alan, welcome and thank you. And today, if you wouldn't mind, we have till about 9:30. And I know we could talk about law enforcement because this council is extremely supportive of law enforcement, and we put money and resources toward you so you can do your job and be successful at what you do. So we have till about 9:30, and it's 9:11 right now, and or 9:12. So we have a few minutes here to talk and tell us some of the highlights and good and bad.
Well, Mayor, I appreciate it. I also appreciate the fact that you told me the time 3 times, because everybody knows when I start talking about the police department, I can be quite a bit long-winded. I do appreciate.
I was actually told to say that just to help you understand that.
I actually have a timer right here. Yeah. So today I'm here to show a sense of gratitude because I love where I work. I know that our team loves where they work, and we do because we have a great deal of support from the mayor, the town council, the town manager, and then all of the residents here in town. And when we're all pulling in the same direction, our job in law enforcement becomes really easy. And you mentioned a vibrant downtown. You mentioned having all of this success in other areas other than law enforcement. And when we have a maintenance department that is so strong that keeps the town looking as beautiful as it does, with the potholes clean, that means from a traffic safety standpoint, from a public safety standpoint, my job becomes a lot easier. And so the kudos and the accolades for Danville being so safe really rest with the residents, the mayor, the town council, our town manager, and frankly, every single resident here in town. But what I want to do is I want to point people towards our annual report. And this is a good report in that it is consistent over time. So if you want to go, there is going to be a link to the Chiefs page, which will show the last 4 to 5 years worth of annual reports. And so you can go and you can look over time about how well or poorly we have done over the years. And frankly, we're just at a time where we're doing extremely well. Generally speaking, if you look at the total reported crimes, you can see that crime has been going down year over year. And if you were to wipe out those 2 pandemic years, that's the second and third dot from the right. We are at the lowest crime that we've ever seen. And that's, and I know it's great to say that, you know, safest city and when we compare ourselves to other places, but if I'm taking my cues from our town manager, Joe Calabrigo, he says, you know, we compare ourselves against ourselves, and we're continuously trying to improve and make ourselves better and provide a better service to the public so we can make their lives better. So really it's about how are we doing today versus what we were doing 5, 10, and 15 years ago. And I'm grateful that I get to follow in the footsteps of other great leaders here in the department. But crime is certainly down. But I want to highlight one thing, because this shows the relationship, I think, between the town council and the hard work that the men and women in our police department put in. And we get a great deal of support. And this is what people don't see. Danville was innovative in putting a camera program in place. And that camera program generates a lot of leads to crimes. And so if we look at our case closure rate, when we talk about, you know, preventing crime, that's where we want to spend most of our time. But when a crime does happen, what are we doing to solve it? You know, a lot of times you'll hear me talk about, you know, keep your doors locked. In fact, I have my little sign here. I'm nothing without props. So this is the lock it or lose it sign. And we want people to make sure that they're doing their part to prevent from being a victim. But what happens if they are a victim? If we go to the next slide, we can see the case closure rate. And this is the amount of cases that we close. And if we compare that against the national average, we can see that we're significantly higher than where we would see in other communities. And if we take a look at robbery, that's probably one of the most violent crimes you'll see in Danville. And frankly, over the last year, 4 of them were significantly very, very violent, and where there were guns and really bad things that happened. But we were able to generate leads very quickly because we've got a robust system in place, funded through the town, supported by the town council and the mayor, where we're able to generate these leads, couple that with the hard work of the team members upstairs in investigations and downstairs in patrol. And we're able to solve 4 out of the 5 burglaries. I mean, that's a robbery. Sorry. That's well above the 28% that you see across the nation. So they're just doing a fantastic job. And we can't do that unless the community, the council, and the police department are all pulling in the same direction. And if we think, and I know I pulled this stat out during our talk at the town council, but if you are in Danville, you are 17 times less likely to be a victim of violent crime when compared to the national average. That is a tremendous number. And that speaks to the safety of everyone here in the town. And it doesn't mean that we don't lock our stuffs up and prevent from being a victim, but it just means that we do our best to try to keep Danville as safe as we can. If we go on, I just want to cover a couple of quick things because we always talk about the crime side, but it's very important to talk about the traffic safety side because that is something that is can affect all of us here in town. And we could be doing everything absolutely right and still fall victim to a traffic collision. So, Mayor, when you talk about putting in traffic calming measures, more lighting, raised crosswalks, all of those things are music to my ears because $1 spent in that bucket lasts a lot longer than an enforcement dollar. And if we can, through engineering enforcement, if we can reduce the collisions, that is a good thing. And if we look at the collisions over time, and this is a 20-year snapshot, the collisions are really down. I mean, their trend line over time is significantly lower. I have to be honest, when I first started here in the late 2000s, early 2010s, I didn't think we'd ever see a collision rate less than 300. And we've popped below that for several years, which is absolutely amazing. I mean, that's less than 1 collision a day. That's really good. And that speaks to, Andy Dillard over in engineering, making sure our roads are designed safely. It speaks to the proactive nature of our law enforcement. But what it really speaks to is, frankly, there are a lot of good drivers out there. We all hear the complaints about bad drivers, people speeding down Camino Tasajera, people driving too fast on Harts when there's pedestrians in crosswalks. We hear all of that. We respond to all of that. But it's not lost on me that we have a lot of people doing a lot of good things that lead to a safe community. All right, so let's look at our citation rate. And this is going to be tied into our total calls for service, which is going to show our proactive nature. So if we look at our citations over time, during the pandemic, we saw a decrease in collisions, and we enforce traffic safety rules, the law, according to where we know collisions are occurring and what is the primary cause of collision. So like downtown, maybe it's speeding and running stop signs. Camino Tasajera, maybe it's speeding and cell phone usage. And then we also listen to every single one of you. So when you call in and say, hey, that's that stop sign on Center behind Safeway, we're seeing people run that stop sign, it goes on the board and we send traffic enforcement officers out there to enforce it. In fact, yesterday, our lead traffic enforcement officer sent out like 15 or 20 locations with primary collision factors and said, hey, everyone else, we need your help in supporting this. Please get some enforcement out there. But let's look at our calls for service because they changed a little bit from the pandemic to the next one. Yeah. So it's interesting. If you look, this is in response directly to a lot of your suggestions and complaints into the police department. We were seeing a lot of requests, especially on Camino Tasajera, more enforcement, too much speeding. And when Mayor Storer talks about being accessible, some of these complaints come directly to me via email, phone call, sometimes during our 10/8 podcast every Wednesday night. And we do listen and we do respond and we will go out. And so if you look, our number 1 call for service was a traffic stop last year, and then a security check and a parking violation. If you look, there's service to citizens, welfare check, patrol requests. A lot of those are proactive in nature. They're not reactive. They're not someone calling and then us simply responding to it. This is where you get officers that know their geographical area and work hard to be in those areas when either crimes are more likely to occur. So it could be nighttime for auto burglaries, maybe dinner time at the Livery or the Rose Garden Shopping Center, or commute times along Camino Tasajara in our downtown area. So that calls for services representative of our officers and our staff being in those areas where we know there's trouble spots and responding to those in a proactive nature. And we can probably take the slides down, but one thing I want to plug in there, and Mayor Storr hit on it earlier, is we as the police department, we're very accessible. We want to be in community with all of you. If you look, we do 2 Coffee with the Cops a year. So we're here for all of you. Those are events in the field where you can come and talk to us. We try to do some during the day, some in the evening. And it's just a way to stay connected. This first picture is because we realize as your police department, we serve all of you. That even includes our little kiddos. So this cover picture is actually part of our program called Cop Cars to the Community. If you have an event and you want the police to come out just to socialize, maybe to give an update on, hey, what's going on in the town? How should we act and behave to better protect ourselves? How should we call 911? What should we do in schools? All of those things. We can come and we can help. Also, what we know that it does is it builds relationships with everyone in our community. We want people to feel comfortable talking with officers, asking for help. You shouldn't hesitate if you see us down the street, so long as we're not like in the middle of a car stop or something like that, tugging us on the shoulder and saying, hey, can I talk to you about something that's going on in my neighborhood? That comfort level has to happen. And that's why we're so safe. If you don't want to come out in person and you can't physically come out, we actually provide a service where once a week we go out and you can catch us on Facebook and YouTube. And so we go live, Facebook and YouTube, 5 o'clock every Wednesday. And I will personally tell you what is happening in the community, what crime is taking place, where it's happening, what traffic accidents are happening. And then usually I'll tie in some crime safety tips. So if we see there's a lot of theft from cars, which is what we're seeing lately, we're going to remind people to lock up their stuff and keep their stuff hidden. And we're going to give those tips that are directly related to that. We're on our last week. So next week will be our last week where we're covering our annual report. And then after that, we're going to roll into wildfire preparedness. And it's kind of silly because if I look out my window, I see beautiful green hills and green trees, and it rained today. And so it seems counterproductive, but basically we are growing the fuel right now. So this is the time to prepare. This is the time to have the go bag ready. This is the time to make sure that our families are ready and that you and your household are prepared for your unique situations. Do you have mobility issues? Do you have medication issues? Anything that you may need to be prepared for?
Hey, Alan,
that is our annual report.
Yeah. So, and listen, pretty exciting. And naturally, as a council, we could throw money at the police department and not get the results we're getting. And because of your leadership, thank you, by the way, because of your leadership and the men and women that wear the uniform, our town is safer. It's much safer. So maybe you could touch base on our closure rate, because that's a big deal. A Danville resident is over 17 times less likely to be a victim of a violent crime in Danville when compared to the national averages. Amazing statistic. But our closure rate is just equally as impressive.
Yeah, if you think about it, even the one where we tend to have the smallest gap is thefts, because usually on a theft, there's very little evidence on what we would call persons crimes. So the robberies and assaults, usually there's going to be some evidence left behind. And what we've always said, and it doesn't matter if it's a catalytic converter theft where it's done in the middle of the night and there's no apparent evidence left, or the robbery that happens in the middle of the daytime and there's lots of evidence. If there's evidence to be processed, we're going to go and we will spend a lot of effort to solve the crime, because we know that if we solve that catalytic converter theft, that can reduce future thefts. And we know that we want to send the message that if you commit crime in Danville, we will vigorously investigate it and try to bring those facts to light that can lead to prosecution. And so we do have a good case closure rate. And I know the slide's off, but If you look at I touched on the robberies, the assaults, we had 5 assaults. Again, we saw 4 out of 5 of those. The national average is less than half. So ours is quite a bit higher. The burglary one, this is the one that can be pretty tough. And I think this one is very interesting. And if you look at it, it's always going to be representative of the hard work of the cops, right? Because if the cops show up and they do nothing, that crime doesn't get solved. But what I see when I see 34% over a 14% national average, what that tells me is that we are generating a lot of leads from what our community is doing. And I can say that when I review the reports and I'm seeing doorbell cameras, driveway cameras, and they're giving us a vehicle and it says, okay, it was a black Audi and it was, with tinted windows, we can then take that description and put it in the system, the automated license plate system, and generate a very good lead. In many of these cases where it would take weeks to solve, sometimes we're solving them in a day. And that's absolutely amazing. And so I think when we look at that burglary stat, what that's telling us is that the people that have control of their environment, all of you, to your individual homes, your individual businesses, you're doing a greater share in making it so that, and we can probably pull the slides off, and you're doing a greater share in making sure that you're prepared. And we know that there's an effect. We know that there's a preventative effect, right? We know that there's criminals. We've talked to them and they've told us in some cases, if we see a camera, we know not only do we leave that house, but we'll leave the neighborhood. Right. And so we know there's a preventative effect, but what happens if your house is broken into and you're able to give us a picture of the car, maybe even a picture of the person? Right. Recently in February, we had a case where we had good pictures from this family. They were actually out of town. They had good pictures of the people. We were able to take that plus some vehicle information, and we were able to identify good leads that very day. And the next day we were able to get someone in custody. That's phenomenal. And that speaks to the relationship of the residents and the support we get from you, the mayor, and our town council and our town manager. It's just a phenomenal network.
Well, I can tell you that in my opinion, and I believe the council, I speak for the whole council, spending money on our cameras in town was probably one of the best investments we've ever made. And it's proven itself over and over the course of the last, I'm losing track of time on this one, probably about 7 years now, I believe, that we've had cameras.
Almost 8.
And to your point on the town manager, and I'm always remiss if we don't mention this, it takes a great deal of effort to ensure the success of any community. We all know that, but it begins with a strong leadership, and that is a town manager. We get a lot of credit for the things that go on in town, but really a town manager is the reason the town looks and feels the way it does. And that's because of Joe Calabrigo, and he's been here literally of our 40-year anniversary that we just celebrated. He's been here about 37, 38 years. And he's the reason that consistency in leadership in our police department, consistency in leadership in our town manager. Most town managers across the country last 3 to 5 years. Joe's been here literally our entire existence, and
seems like he's doing the dog years approach to that, right?
Pardon me?
He's doing the dog years approach to that. Yeah.
And we'll still have him for a while. So, do we have any questions?
Well, let me just touch on one thing real quick, because you mentioned the money spent, and I know there are some people, and I'm one of them, frankly, that I'm very concerned when the government's telling me they're spending money. I want to make sure that they're being fiscally responsible with it. And for everyone that's watching this, I think it's very important to know that license plate camera system costs me about 30 to 45% of what one police officer would cost per year. Right. So it's actually a more cost-effective way of providing a service. And it is something that we look at. I'd love to say that there's an unlimited pot, but there's not. And so we need to be fiscally responsible. And I'm glad the team that we have here, we do police work at 0.67 per 1,000, which is about a third below the average across just this county. Most are about 1 or 1.1 per 1,000. And we're able to do that because of the support we receive from the community, because we're part of the sheriff's office. And at moment's notice, like yesterday, we can call and we can get 8 or 10 more detectives that help us with a case. And so there's ways that we can work with this that really provide an excellent service at a very great rate.
Chief, I want you to know that you're the reason, and your department is the reason. Pass on our kudos. We sleep better at night. And I always tell people, give our police chief a call. If they have a complaint, they have a compliment. And a fellow called me back the other day and said, he actually answered the phone.
Huh.
That's what we do in Danville. We answer the phone, we respond. You may not love to hear our answers, but we'll give you our answer. So, and I appreciate all that you do. And we hit the time, Chief. Thank you, buddy.
I'm looking. It says 9:30. We're good.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Be safe out there. The next item is something that we had to deal with after the storms, and it got to a point in January that every phone call was something going wrong in the town of Danville, and it was storm related. So we found out that at some point in the storm, Diablo Road, sort of close to St. Timothy's Avenue, I think it's Alameda, in that little area, we found that the road had basically sank almost 18 inches. And it was because we had a culvert. It was 12 feet wide, installed in about 1962 or so. And that culvert had reached its life expectancy, and we realized that it was going to collapse the road. So we brought the road down to one lane, tried to figure out how to shore this thing up, brought an amazing amount of riprap, which is basically large boulders, to shore up the side of the hill, and basically try to keep this thing from caving in. And today we have Ty Williams, which is our second in command in the town of Danville, our assistant town manager, and Stephen Jones, which is our town engineer, here today to talk about this update. And we were able to complete this quickly because it was under an emergency ordinance that we had to sign during that storm that allowed this culvert to be, or storm drain, to be replaced in literally about 3 weeks. So we're going to go through and, Ty, we closed, and welcome. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Ty, we closed Diablo Road, and, there was a big hole in the ground because, we're replacing this large pipe. Can you tell us about what's going on out there and sort of bring the public up to speed, maybe when it's going to be completed and what they can expect in the meantime?
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Absolutely. As you've just described, right now we've closed the road. We have a giant hole in the ground. In a nutshell, what we're doing is we're undertaking this fairly enormous emergency project to replace a 12-foot diameter wide drainage pipe under the road. And the reason why we're doing that is, the December 31st storms really kind of did a number on that pipe and all of the soil around it and have eroded it. And as you've noted earlier, as we watched and inspected that pipe every single day after those storms, we were just basically watching it start to collapse. And so, this project is basically taking what would typically be a multi-year effort, and we're trying to condense it into 3 weeks. Our ultimate goal, and Stephen will talk about this, our ultimate goal is to try and get it done by next Thursday. So multiple years into 3 weeks. So
I don't know if people have been out there, but even in my mind, there's so much more of the roadway removed. So I know that's what it takes to do this project, but this is a monumental project in 3 weeks. So Stephen,
Yes.
Thank you for putting all this together. I know you tried with the riprap. Did you have any success putting the riprap in place to try to shore up the pipe? Maybe we could buy some time.
After the storms of New Year's, we did send out construction crews to stabilize the roadway and creek bank with riprap, but that was only a temporary slope protection to prevent further erosion. It didn't resolve the collapsing culvert itself. And we did look into other options other than replacing the culvert, but given how quickly the culvert was collapsing, we concluded that a catastrophic failure was imminent, and that replacement was the only viable option.
Why this period of time? Because, when we looked at this from a council perspective, we said, oh my God, this is amazing. We can get this thing done. Literally, it seemed like from the time we had the conversation, we were within about 3.5 weeks where we were actually going to start this. And we had a timeline. What was the reason? So everyone knows, why did you do it now? What was the reason that we started it?
Well, perhaps I can speak to that, Mr. Mayor. As we looked at the calendar, what we discovered was, coincidentally, we had a good portion of time where the schools in the area were going to be on spring break. So we wanted to really take advantage of that time so that 2 of at least those 3 weeks much of the traffic is kind of out of town. And our primary goal there really was to reduce the pain, right? The commuting pain for all those folks who typically travel east-west on Diablo Road. So that's why we picked that time. And of course, we also didn't want to wait too long, because for those of us who monitor that culvert every day, our heart rates were going up just a little bit.
Yeah, no. For those of us who have seen it, we couldn't be more excited that it's getting done. Now, even so, we have people that are still, it's something like this where we're trying to get it done as quick as possible. This project would, in a normal world, would have taken 3 and 4 times longer, and we've condensed it into 3 weeks. Sometimes it's nice when we reach out to our public, and we did. We reached out to Diablo, and we reached out to the Diablo resident, the country club especially, and we've seemed to have gotten their input, and we tried our best to accommodate. So what was the reason we just couldn't leave one lane open? Because I get that question a lot.
Do you want to take this, Stephen?
Yeah, it's the order of magnitude. If we were to try to leave one lane open, it would have made the project 3 times as long, and would have cost 3 times as much.
Steve, can you walk us through the project itself, and sort of, I want people who don't know anything about this project to better understand what we needed to do to get from the start to the finish.
Sure, it really is a big undertaking. We are, as Ty had mentioned, we are trying to complete a complex project that would typically take several years into 3 weeks. The contractor is working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, except for this Sunday, which happens to be Easter Sunday. From a global view, the first few days consisted of closing the road, staging the construction site, waiting for construction materials like the culvert to arrive. And while we were waiting for that to happen, we were coordinating with the utilities to de-energize the utility lines that are located out there. There's a picture of the utility lines that were in conflict. Once these lines were de-energized, the crew was able to get to work securing lines to that steel beam that crosses that trench there. Once they were able to secure those utility lines to the beam, we were able to extract the old culvert. While that was taking place, large pumps were brought in to dewater the construction site and divert the water from the creeks. A cofferdam was constructed upstream so water could be pumped out and create a dry working environment so that the work could be carried out safely. Once the old culvert was removed, we were able to install the base for the new culvert, which consists of aggregate base interlayered with a geotechnical fabric. There's a good picture of that one there. The pipe itself was assembled in 22-foot sections outside the trench. It was then connected together inside the trench with the use of a large crane. Currently, the crews are out there backfilling the trench. This consists of layering aggregate base in 1 to 2 foot lifts and then compacted and tested. This is probably one of the most time-consuming elements of the work. The goal is to finish, as mentioned, the goal is to finish the work by the end of this phase of the work by the end of day Saturday. The crews, as mentioned, are not scheduled to work on Easter Sunday, but starting on Monday, we hope to begin work on the energy dissipator at the outfall, which basically deflects and neutralizes the force of the stormwater from the pipe. And without that, there would be future scouring and erosion downstream, and then we'll end up being in the same position that we're in now. After that, weather permitting, we hope that we can remove those pumps and begin work on repaving the roadway by mid next week. But that's a video right there that shows the compaction that took place yesterday and is continuing today.
Just look at the size of the scope of this work within 3 weeks. That sounds amazing from where I'm sitting. So the $1 million question is, I know we've had a little bit of rain in between here, and we were shooting, I believe, for April 13th or so.
That's right.
Where are we at in that schedule line or that timeline?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to lie. It's a very tight timeline. We've faced and encountered a number of obstacles that we'll be happy to all share once it's all done. But the most significant of which was that we experienced quite a bit of rain last week that we had hoped to not have had because it was the end of it. We're now in April. But we think, given how quickly and persistently the crews are working, and the fact that, our staff on our end, every single design issue that has come up have been responding to it very quickly. We think we just might make it. We're optimistically hopeful. And if I might add, Mr. Mayor, Stephen talked a lot about the construction, but I also don't want to kind of skip over the fact that there was so much work that this team did in preparation for the construction itself, right? There were a large number of hurdles that we had to overcome with federal and state regulatory agencies to secure our permits.
Let's start with PG&E not de-energizing the pipes the 11th hour before we start grading the next day.
Yeah,
That seems to be a challenging hurdle to me, by the way, too.
Yes. And then there was the coordination with our utility companies. In all fairness to PG&E, they had said that they would come and de-energize our line on day one of our construction start. But a couple of days prior, they said, they were responding to a lot of wind storm issues. So we had some heart palpitations those first few days because, if they didn't de-energize that high voltage line that you saw strapped to that I-beam, and you saw the big claws of, all of those machinery trying to get around it, all of our work would have come to a complete dead stop at the very beginning of the project.
Taggart has done a really good job coordinating this, like they have with a lot of projects in the town of Danville. They're a very reputable contractor, and when they say they're going to do something, they do it, and we do appreciate that. So is there anything else you'd like to add? I know we can follow this on the Town Talks website. We're updating this regularly. We're trying to be respectful of Diablo Country Club. We certainly have a relationship there, and we want to make sure that it's not damaged. But the fact of the matter is we've closed the street down and we've torn it up and put a storm drain in place. So I'm hoping people can understand the complexity of this project and how big it is. And 3 weeks seems incredible. So Stephen, thank you. And Ty, as always, thank you for your leadership on this, because this is a tough one.
Absolutely. I would just like to underscore, to get updates on the project, follow us on all of our social media platforms. The new numbers I got from Jen this morning was that so far we've had over 46,000 views on all of our posts and updates. So this is how much of our community is getting information from us. And I would encourage everyone who's interested to follow us on social media.
And this is the point of these town talks. We want to communicate with our public so they don't have questions when something is disruptive in town or something amazing taking place in town. So, and once again, somehow you figured out how to make a storm drain interesting, Stephen. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great. So now we're going to move on to a very special topic because it deals with our chamber, our downtown. And I'll just footnote by saying, as a government entity, the town of Danville, the Danville Town Council, and those of us on staff, we do our job as a government entity. We make sure the streets are clean, the parks are well, maintained, our buildings are in good shape. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that we do. But what we don't do is we don't touch the public as much. And it could be a nonprofit. It could be the chamber, it could be our downtown businesses. We reach out as a council, and we're constantly downtown. But Judy Lloyd is the CEO of the Danville Chamber, and she's a wonderful partner that we are excited to work with on a daily basis. And then she touches many nonprofits that, like I say, for us, are people that we want to touch as government, but we don't have that opportunity. So we need to partner with nonprofits, our chamber, and the town. I mean, that's the three-legged stool. So Judy is joining us today because through the town talks with the mayor, I want our downtown community to know that we care. We've put money and parklets in places when the world just went to hell. And now we're coming out of that, and we want to continue the relationship with our downtown businesses. They're thriving. They're doing really well right now. We've come out of COVID, and we're excited about that. And let's bring Judy up, and Judy is going to highlight some of the things the chamber is doing, because we're extremely supportive of that. And then what I'd like to do in the town talks is highlight a few businesses downtown, especially in our retail sector. And at some point, maybe even our home-based business, because they're a very important part of our economy as well. Good morning, Judy.
Hello, Mayor. How are you today?
Great. Thank you for being such a good partner. We have
Thank you.
a few minutes here. It's we're actually surprisingly on schedule. So we have about 15 minutes to talk about the Danville Chamber and all the great things you're doing.
Wonderful. Well, I probably won't take 15 minutes, but I will take probably 5 or 7 minutes just to talk about a few things. And you referenced talking about a few retail businesses potentially. And the way that I want to do that this morning is by presenting to the public on this show our new community awards program that we're doing at the end of the month. And I wonder, am I able to share my screen, or is somebody else?
Jen, can she share her screen? Go ahead, Judy.
I don't think I can share my screen yet, but I can talk a little bit about, we have a community awards celebration coming up, and it's going to be very, very different than anything that we've ever done in the past. And let me see, I think I can actually share now. I just have to find the right.
Well, while you're
Right.
doing that, let me just add that one of the things that I think is really important to note, that the chamber, not only the chamber, but the town of Danville sort of took a different look at how we do business, going into COVID, through COVID, and coming out of COVID. The chamber realized early on that there were some events that just weren't working out, and for either financial reasons or the fact that our downtown, street closures, those people aren't available anymore. So, the worst thing we can do in this world is just say, that's the way we've always done it, and we're going to continue doing it that way. And to me, that's just doesn't work. So thank you for reinventing yourself and helping our residents come downtown to gather and try to create a synergy down there.
Absolutely. So I believe everyone can see my screen now, and I want to thank the mayor. Also, we had a wonderful State of the Town luncheon, sold out. Rave reviews of the mayor for the wonderful job he did, and talking about the wonderful things that the town is doing to support everyone in our community, the residents, businesses. We've got a wonderful, beautiful parks program. Just really, really proud of what you're doing also at the recreation. Just a wonderful one. We're very, very lucky to be in this community, and largely due to you, Mayor, and Joe Calabrigo, Ty Williams, Jill Bergman, and the staff there. So I just want to express my appreciation there to you.
Well, I did have an opportunity to ask my wife how I did, and I did get some constructive criticism. So thank you, Judy.
You did a great job. So this is our Danville Denim and Diamonds State of the Chamber and Community Awards, a new program where we're asking people, sport your country western gear and come out to our community awards. And we've actually opened up the community awards this year to the public to vote. You must be a chamber member to win, but anyone in the public can vote. And this is a perfect way, perfect opportunity for me to kind of showcase who's been nominated in the retail category. So if you were to click this button, you go to our Denim and Diamonds Community Awards dinner, and you would have the opportunity to scroll down and see these different categories. There are 11 different categories this year where people can be nominated. So let's take a look right now at the best retail boutique sales. In first place, America's Finest Hemp Company. Krista Michelini Interiors, KM Home, as she is known by many, is in second place. Wim House is in third place. Cottage Jewel is in fourth place. And Krista James Fine Jewelry, who we all know and love downtown, is in fifth place. Now, all of these are located in the downtown corridor. In fact, all of them are on Harts, other than Krista Michelini's KM Home, which is on Railroad, right around the corner. I am very, very proud of all of these businesses. We have actually worked very closely with all of them. And it's been an exciting process for us. I'm proud to say, and this has never happened. I actually had an ambassador meeting earlier this morning, and we verified we have 40 nominees in these categories. We've never had 40 nominees ever. So it's very, very exciting. I just wanted to share that today with you, Mayor. And I wonder, I could, if we have time permitting, I can tell you a little bit about each of these businesses, if that's helpful.
8 minutes, yes.
8 minutes. All right. America's Finest Hemp, as they call it, natural healing as nature intended. Far greater than the average CBD store. This is one of the most interesting downtown stores in Danville. And I will tell you, you can find a lot of cool gifts there in addition to CBD and hemp products. I bought my own Willie Nelson worship candle there, which was quite a treat, especially with Willie Nelson's 90th birthday coming up at the end of the month. Krista Michelini, we did some work with. She does a lot of pop-ups in her store. So she partners with other businesses. She might bring in a business from another part of town or a home-based business. We're very proud of her. Wim House, of course, owned by our board member, Kiva Dodd. Wonderful, very, very unique product line there. Worth taking a look at if you love home goods and fragrances and candles, anything you might like is there. And of course, one of our favorites, I believe they were an award winner last year by the East Bay Times, Cottage Jewel, which is just a treasure trove of interesting things. And Krista James Fine Jewelry, owned by one of our longtime chamber members, and she was once our chairman of the board. So we're very, very proud of all of those that have been nominated. Of course, there are a gazillion businesses we could talk about in Danville, not just in the downtown core, but the Livery has an amazing array of new businesses. I'm going to point out Barnyard Epicurean as one of them. And we're just seeing much more in the way of business starts in Danville. We're seeing a lot of health and wellness businesses. So come on down, shop at the Livery, the Rose, up at Camino Tassajara Crossings, or take a trip downtown. There's a lot that we will have to offer and a lot to see.
Judy, talk about some of the coming up sipping wines, whatever street closures you think you might be looking at, and some of the things that our residents can go downtown and enjoy.
That is a great one for me to talk about. On Monday, we're actually launching our Sip and Stroll for May 11th. That is going to be one of our most popular events last year, and Mayor will remember this well. We had 450 people come out on a cold, rainy night, and our retailers told us that they believe that it was their best night ever. We had people in the stores, people enjoying some of our wonderful, tasty food that was brought into the storefronts, partnerships with wineries, many of them very boutique wineries that you don't usually get in Danville. So it's an exciting night. That will be May 11th, 5:30 to 8:30 between the Danville Livery and downtown, and we will have a trolley to deliver people to and fro. It's going to be a fun night. Again, those tickets are going to go on sale on Monday. And then later on in the year, I do want to point out a partnership event we're going to be doing both with Town Rec Department and with Jill Bergman and her team in economic development. We are doing the very first Health and Wellness Day on the Green. And that's going to be on our town green. It's going to include healthy eating options at the community center. And it's going to showcase some of our fitness and spa, some of our new businesses. It's very exciting. We have many new businesses that are owned particularly by women. And we've got some just exciting things coming up that are going to take place there. We're also at that event going to focus on our new commitment to youth mental health from the chamber, which is a new thing that we developed last year. And we're going to be offering some new programming, particularly Narcan training for our youth coming up. But that event, the health and wellness event, will be October 14th. Just want to put that on people's calendar. And then, of course, the popular lighting of the old oak tree, which will be the day after Thanksgiving, November 24th. Another family favorite, thousands of people downtown visiting our businesses and our restaurants. So
I think that tree is celebrating 386 years and she still looks beautiful.
absolutely. So
How do people find out this information, Judy? What if they wanted to join the chamber, or how do they, if they wanted to get information on these events, how would they do that?
So they would go to our website, which is danvilleareachamber.com. You would find everything that you need there, including how to contact me. And I'm happy to give my email, which is ceo@danvilleareachamber.com, as well as my telephone, which is 925-837-4400. We're very excited for another great year of partnership, and appreciate you inviting us to be a part of the show today.
Well, we appreciate the downtown Danville that you've helped create with the businesses, the excitement from the businesses. They seem to be participating. As I went to a ribbon cutting the other day, I made comment that in the past, our ribbon cutting literally lasted 15 minutes. And then as you came on, these ribbon cuttings have taken on a life of their own. They've turned into mixers. I think we had probably 85 people at that last ribbon cutting. The mixers are 85 to 100 people. And so we're getting the community interest. We're getting people to come to the chamber events, which is a big deal, I think. And, from my perspective, from a council, we want to be a part of each and every one of those because our relationship is extremely important.
Well, you have been a wonderful partner, Mayor, and prior to you, we've really enjoyed working with the rest of the council members as they have
Absolutely.
rotated through
Yeah.
as mayor. And if I could just put in a plug for what you said about the last ribbon cutting, that was for a home-based business. Her name is
Yeah.
Sarah Fendrick. She has Makeup by Sarah Fendrick. It is a fabulous opportunity. I've referred her several times myself, and she handles some of the corporate execs and some of the folks in the political world on the peninsula. Just a fabulous, fabulous opportunity. And she does have a retail component. So we were
And she-
very proud to support her.
And she was pretty clear that she had some face cream that could help me, and I actually bought some. That's supporting downtown businesses, by the way.
Absolutely.
So tell us about the restaurant. There was a restaurant stroll. How did that go?
We did have a restaurant stroll, and that will be a component largely for the May 11th Sip and Stroll. And our restaurant stroll was very interesting. We combined it last fall with a different type of event, which was called Flavors of Fall. And again, wonderful group of people that came out on a beautiful night, actually in October, and enjoyed visiting with downtown merchants and learning about boutique wines and having bites
Beautiful.
catered from some of our beautiful local businesses. So
Absolutely incredible.
it was a wonderful event.
So, I always like to add somewhere along the way, whether it's state of the town, that, hey, the Danville Town Council are actually 5 people that get along. We actually seem to be rowing in the same direction. We support our chamber, we support our downtown. And frankly, I think when a council, gets along, we make really good decisions on behalf of the town of Danville, because there are many councils, and I've worked throughout the Bay Area. You don't even get to talk to the mayor, a council member. You could hardly get to a staff. We're accessible. We want to be downtown. We want to be partners. So we want to be good partners, by the way. I want to, and once again, the shop local concept. I don't even know how to say it anymore. I've said it. I want you to shop local. I want you to play local, buy local, eat local. I want you to be downtown and just enjoy the synergy downtown. And because of your leadership, we're seeing more people downtown. And one of the things I like, when I go to Walnut Creek is that there's a synergy downtown. And I want that here in Danville. I want people to come downtown, and I want them to know that they can call their CEO of the chamber. They can call their police chief. They can call their town manager. They can call their mayor, council member. We answer our calls. We want to figure this thing out, and we want to communicate with you. And you've done a great job with that, Judy. And I appreciate the relationship. So we have a couple minutes. If you want to close with your final thoughts, that'd be wonderful. And I think
For
Kat
me
might
or
actually have some
everybody on the
questions.
call.
Well, I think Kat might actually have a couple of questions here. Kat, are you there?
So I did actually have one question for Alan. Dee Dee asked, what is being done about the considerable spike in crime we are having in Danville? If Alan is available to answer that.
Okay, so the considerable spike in crime, I would say, isn't a considerable spike in crime.
Thank you.
Doesn't mean that certain areas aren't going up. We are seeing a rise in residential burglaries, mostly on the north end. So there's been a couple of things that have happened. One, if you've looked at any of our 10-8 podcasts every Wednesday night at 5, I would say at least a third of them are geared towards letting all of you know where the burglaries are occurring, what you can do to prevent burglaries, and then also what our response is to those burglaries. We've talked about, in fact, I think I talked about it here, where we had one where there was a burglary on a Thursday. The resident did a great job of providing us some video from inside their home. We were able to track that back to the plate. based on the description we had, that car actually tried to come back into town the very next day. We sent all the officers out there, and believe it or not, I'm actually the one that found it in San Ramon, and we pursued that car all the way to Milpitas. We were able to identify the person that was responsible for it, connect them to several other crimes in the Bay Area, and then file that case within a week or two. We've already had the preliminary hearing. The person's been held to answer on several counts, and he's being held in custody on $1.3 million bail.
You know,
So
Alan, a lot
what
of
we're
times-
doing is we're taking two approaches. The first one is we're trying to educate all of you and make sure that you know what is happening. We don't want there to be surprises. We are transparent. The data is coming to you. The other side is we're working really hard with our Danville detectives, our sheriff's office detectives, our crime lab, and our regional partners to act in a coordinated way to respond to these and make sure that we're holding those people accountable.
Yeah, as always, we emphasize how safe the town of Danville is until you get your house broken into, and then you feel differently about how safe the town of Danville really is. If you've gotten robbed, or you had your house broken into, or some incident takes place, you feel a little bit differently about safety.
Yeah,
And we're aware of that.
Yeah, I can say that, it's crime is at historic lows in the town of Danville. And when I say historic, I mean, if you look at the 80s and the 90s, we're at about half to a third of the crime as we were then. That number means nothing, or that stat means nothing if you were one of the people that were robbed last year. If you had a gun pointed in your face and property taken from you, it doesn't feel like a safe place. So that's not lost on me. That's why we spend a great deal of time and effort to catch those people. We put together really good cases, and we do get good filings on those cases. So we do act in a coordinated effort, and without giving up all the little secrets, we are very, very well connected with not just the Tri-Valley, but I would say the Bay Area counties and police agencies. And the coordination is on a level that I have not seen in law enforcement. And it allows us to adapt and react in, I know this is a little bit hyperbolic, but in like lightning fast speed to events as they happen. So the coordination between agencies is just fantastic, and we're really working hard to keep the crime down.
Yeah, I do recall we had a conversation just very recently, and I said, hey, of the 13 home burglaries, how many actually had their alarms on? And you said one.
Yeah.
One actually had their alarm. They all had alarms. So, there's a message here. Please lock your door in your car, lock your house. I had a friend of mine call me up, say my laptop got stolen out of the front seat of my car. How's that possible? Did they break a window? No, they opened the door. I didn't lock it. I was just going into the store for 2 minutes. I was going to grab something. I was coming right back out. Got his laptop stolen.
Yeah. If you see me, you can't see my bike, but I ride my bike to and from work, which means I carry a backpack. My backpack has my town of Danville issued iPad in it, right? If it's in my car, I can't leave it in there. So if you see me down at Lunardi's, I'm the weirdo that's walking around Lunardi's with a backpack on, right? Most people would leave their bag in their car. I don't know how I could ever face the mayor and explain how my bag with my town issued iPad was stolen because it was inside the car. I don't know how I explain that.
Well,
so I do carry those items with me.
Yeah, I know you would get another one, but it would be a little bit of time,
Well, the other thing about the alarm is what people don't realize is it may not even prevent the theft. But anecdotally, what I've seen when I review the reports is the time spent in your home is decreased. It's going to be a kick the door, grab something in sight because they hear the alarm going off and they know the cops are coming. And so they're going to grab something real quick and they're going to be gone. So they're going to limit the time. The other thing is, from an investigative standpoint, instead of having to check a week or a weekend, I can check an hour. And the data pool on that is way lower. And so it really provides us a lot of good information as far as like preventing these, but then also investigating them.
Yeah, but I would also encourage, if someone really thinks the town of Danville is crime ridden, please call our police chief, sit down with him, and or a lieutenant, and basically get the firsthand information. And this is what I appreciate about Jen Starnes, our PIO information officer. When there's information on Nextdoor that's not truthful, she comes in and just, without no emotions, gives a very honest assessment of whatever the situation is. So we want accurate information to go out there. I want people to know that they can call me, they can call the town council, they can call the city attorney, the city manager, police chief, our chamber president. We're accessible, and we want to be accessible constantly. And I promise you, if my phone goes to voicemail, I will call you back immediately. So with that, we are getting close. We'll put our final screens up and we want everyone to see some links. We're excited to continue this process with Town Talks. And if there's something that we could do that's better, a way that we can reach, a part of the community that you're a part of, please let us know. We want to know that. Jen Starnes, our PIO officer, she'll put her information on the website as well. You can reach out to her. She is trying to reinvent what the town of Danville looks like and how we communicate with our citizens. And she's doing an incredible job, and we couldn't be more proud of her. So I think she's only been here about 7.5 months, and now it's 5 months. So we're almost at a 6-month anniversary. So she's doing an incredible job. Thank you all for being here today, and I'm really appreciate your attendance. And once again, please call me if you have any questions. I know it's only an hour and we tried to cover a lot of information, but please call me or our council or anybody who can help answer a question in the town of Danville. Happy to help here. Have a great day and have a very happy Easter or whatever holiday you celebrate. We are thankful to be a part of the town of Danville. Have a great day. Thank you.